Hebrew texts of the Bible were originally written with only the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which only represented consonantal sounds.
First letter is A. As you see here, the pronunciations are here on the bottom. And then we have the characters. You got the A, Ba, Ga, Da, Ha, Wa, Za, Ha, Ta, Ya, Ka, La, Ma, Na, Sa, I, Pa, Ta, Za, Kwa, Ra, Sha, and Tha. And the only difference in the sound is the I. So you have the I and the I sound. Very simple language to learn.
Examples of this type of writing can be found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. As no vowel sounds were originally included in the text, they had to be memorized. Around the 10th century AD, a group of Jewish scribes called Masoretes created a system of dots and dashes called nikudot, or vowel pointings, and added these to the Hebrew text. These vowel pointings serve to supply the vowel sounds to the text in order to codify the pronunciation. The Masoretes also included notes in the margins of the text. Prior to the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the oldest Hebrew manuscript known to exist is the Masoretic text called the Aleppo Codex, which was written in 826 AD. This text is considered the most authoritative Hebrew manuscript, and all future editions are based on this text. Another important Masoretic text is the Leningrad Codex, written in 1008 AD. Both the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad Codex are called Ben Asher texts, as they both come from the Ben Asher tradition of the Masoretes. Both of these texts are virtually identical, the only difference being paragraph locations and vowel pointings, but the actual texts themselves are identical. As an example, on the left is the Aleppo Codex. On the right is the Leningrad Codex. Psalms 113 verse 1 is highlighted in both manuscripts, and as you can see, they are identical. In 1947, portions of the Aleppo Codex were burned in a fire, so the Leningrad Codex is used as the authoritative text for those missing portions. The next major additions to the Masoretic text are the Mikraot Gedolot, meaning Rabbinic Bibles. These Hebrew texts are again identical to the Aleppo and the Leningrad codexes, but include variations in the vowel pointings, paragraph locations, and the marginal notes. But in addition, the Rabbinic Bibles included commentaries. One of these Rabbinic Bibles is Jacob ben Chaim's Rabbinic Bible, first published by Daniel Bomberg in 1525. It is this Ben Chaim Rabbinic Bible that the King James translators used for their translation. There are only 9 textual differences between the Ben Chaim text and the Ben Asher texts of the Aleppo and the Leningrad codexes. Other than these 9 differences, all of the Masoretic texts are identical. The next major additions to the Masoretic Hebrew Bible was the Biblia Hebraica and the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia. The Biblia Hebraica was published in 1906 by Rudolf Kittel and was basically a copy of the Ben Chaim Rabbinic Bible, but did not include the marginal notes. The Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia was printed by Paul Kali in 1977 and is a copy of the Leningrad Codex, but revised the marginal notes. In both cases, the Hebrew texts of the Biblia Hebraica and the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia are identical to each other and to the Ben Chaim and the Ben Asher texts. The bottom line is that while there are many different versions of the Masoretic text, they are all the same when it comes to the text itself.
the adulterer and the adulteress. Are there errors in the Masoretic text? Yes, there are errors there. Do we want to take the Hebrew and take our scissors and cut that verse out? No, for two reasons. One is, we don't know where all of the errors are. We may think it's an error, but maybe it's not. We don't know. There are times where, it could be, but it may not be. We don't know. And also, we want to preserve the text the way it is. And Judaism does still do that today. If there's an error, they still preserve it. And they continue on. Okay, and that...
Since I said very little about the Masoretic text in my video, Canaanite Jews, I thought maybe I'd bring you up to speed on what the Masoretic text is. It's a deception that the Antichrist Jews worked on from, I guess, around 500 AD to about 900 AD when they got it finished. And they had taken our Septuagint and our Paleo-Hebrew and translated it into their fraudulent Hebrew and inserted thousands of mistranslations so that the Christians wouldn't know what the Bible was really saying. As a consequence, in 1611, when the KJV was written, they depended on these liars to help them translate the KJV. So there are many mistranslations in the KJV that completely eradicate the meanings. For instance, the word Gentile means kinsman in most places. It doesn't mean non-Jew or non-Israelite. It means kinsman, which is why Jesus is our kinsman redeemer. So that's just one example of the things that they screwed up in our Bibles. And then they took out 14 books when they removed the text in between the Old and New Testament. For instance, the book of Maccabees, which is very important. The entire Apocrypha was removed, so that also left a blank in our knowledge of what really happened between the Old and New Testament. And of course, we didn't know that they attempted to join the Israelite race in 125 BC when they were defeated by King John of Cranus in Edomite. And of course, you can't join a race. That's absurd. The whole Bible is about the two seed lines, the seed of Satan, who are the Jews, and the seed of God, who are the Israelites.
Are there errors in the Masoretic text? Yes, there are errors there. Do we want to take the Hebrew and take our scissors and cut that verse out? No, for two reasons. One is, we don't know where all of the errors are. We may think it's an error, but maybe it's not. We don't know. There are times where, it could be, but it may not be. We don't know. And also, we want to preserve the text the way it is. And Judaism does still do that today. If there's an error, they still preserve it. And they continue on. Okay, and so there is not only some accidental changes within the text like we looked at, there are actually some changes that were made on purpose. There is not only some accidental accidental changes within the text like we looked at. There are actually some changes that were made on purpose.